On the morning of August 6, 1945, a young engineer named Tsutomu Yamaguchi was walking to catch a train home. He'd been in Hiroshima for 3 months designing oil tankers, and today was finally the day he got to leave. He'd even forgotten his travel pass at the office and turned back for it. A small delay, the kind you don't think about. Then the sky turned white. He was about 2 miles from the center of the blast when the first atomic bomb ever used on a city went off above Hiroshima. The light came first, so bright he thought a flare had gone off right in front of his eyes. Then the sound, then a wall of air that picked him up off the ground, spun him and threw him into a potato field. When he came to, his eardrums were ruptured, the top half of his body was burned, and the morning had gone black with ash. He couldn't see. A mushroom cloud was climbing over the ruins of a city that a minute ago had been full of people walking to work. He survived the night in an air raid shelter. And the next morning, burned, half-deaf, wrapped in bandages, Tsutomu Yamaguchi did the only thing that made sense. He got on a train. He went home. Home was Nagasaki. 2 days later, on August 9th, he was back at the office, bandaged and barely able to see, telling his supervisor what he had witnessed. A single bomb, one flash, an entire city gone. And his boss didn't believe him. How could one bomb destroy a whole city? It wasn't possible. Yamaguchi was insisting, trying to make the man understand, when the window lit up white. 11:02 in the morning, the second atomic bomb. About 2 miles away, again. He hit the floor as the same impossible wind tore through the same kind of building in a different city 3 days later. And when the dust settled, Tsutomu Yamaguchi stood up, burned over wounds that hadn't even begun to heal, alive. Again. Think about what that means. There were only 2 atomic bombs ever dropped on people. 2 in the entire history of the world. And this one man was standing under both. As many as 165 people may have been in both cities that week. But here is where the story turns strange. For the next 64 years, on paper, it didn't count. Japan recognized Yamaguchi as a survivor, but only of Nagasaki, the city he legally lived near. His presence under the first bomb in Hiroshima, the thing that made his story unlike anyone else's on Earth, simply wasn't on the record. The one man who could prove, with his own scarred body, that a single weapon could find you twice, in 2 cities, was officially counted as having survived only once. He didn't fight it for most of his life. He raised a family. He went quiet. The burns healed into scars. And then, as he grew old, something shifted in him. He began to speak. He wrote poetry about what he had seen. He sat in front of cameras, an old man with a soft voice, and said the thing he had spent a lifetime carrying, that these weapons must never be used again because he was the proof of what they do, twice over. In March of 2009, the Japanese government finally made it official. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was recognized as a niju hibakusha, a twice-bombed person, the only one they would ever name. He was 93. He had less than a year to live. So when you hear his story, it is tempting to file him away. The luckiest unlucky man who ever lived. A freak of statistics. Wrong place, twice. But he never saw himself as luck. He saw himself as a message. We like to tell ourselves that some horrors are simply too big to repeat. That lightning doesn't strike the same person twice, that it could never happen again. Yamaguchi's whole life was the quiet, patient correction to that comfort. It happened to him in 3 days, in 2 cities, to one man. He didn't survive to be a miracle, he survived to be a warning. And he spent the last of his breath trying to make us listen, before we needed him to be right.